Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something that's a headline item in the Australian media at the moment. I mean, they're breathless and they're gagging over it. Another hotbed of fascist Nazi Hitlers has been found, and the morally superior ones are going after, there's this gaggle of lesbians and LGBTQ and radical feminists, and they're going after this, and they're going after those misogynist Nazis. And so there's a certain amount of sort of reveling in this. Now, hey, is it a big deal? I mean, if there are that many misogynist, Nazi, fascist Hitlers running around, I mean, surely we should all know about it, and it's a big deal. So let's have a look at the backstory here. Now, it's a regional police force, and the argument was, or the claim was, well, they don't have a sufficient number of employment, equity, affirmative action, and diversity, equity, inclusion. They don't have a sufficient number of equity programs to do with employment. Not that they don't have them, they do, but they don't have a sufficient number of them. They could be doing a bit more. Now, when you look at it on balance, they seem to have I suppose they're not far off what would be the racial. In this particular region, it's not a huge migration area, so they've got a lower proportion of mass migrants, and the amount of people in this police force that are of a migrant background so say the migrant background's 15%, then the police force had 12%. So we're talking nothing major here. It will be hard to point the finger at this police force for any obvious misdeeds. There's apparently not as many women in senior management in the police force in this area than. So the claim is, well, the population is 50% female. Why aren't there 50% police officers? I mean, the same would be said. Look, in terms of people that clean the sewers out and catch the rats, they're 99% male. Why? Why is that? Why don't we have 50% females who want to climb around the sewer pipes cleaning it? Why don't we have that? I mean, that's an issue. But they don't do that. That's not the sort of things they sort of seem to focus on. Now, the leftist government of the day then employed probably the most radical leftist quango you could find in the whole of Australia, and gave them the job of evaluating the equity or the lack of it, in their view, in this particular police force. So the most radical activists, and then activist group, and then the people that were chosen to do this examination, this study, call it what you will, were in turn the most radical activists of the radical activist group. And they went about it in your classic sort of gender studies methodology, which is you declare the outcome in advance. The outcome is they're all fascist Nazis. That's the outcome. And then you go searching for anything that might support that. And if you don't find it, if you don't find evidence to support the predetermined outcome, then you invent it, which is very much how things are all across the Western world at the moment, particularly in regard to the ideology of equity and so on. Now, again, they relied heavily on, well, there's a problem here because outcomes are not exactly equal. And if outcomes are not equal, it must be because of fascist Nazi Hitler. That's why. And so they instantly go to that. But there was no real evidence to support it. So they had to resort to anecdotal evidence. One woman told us that she was raped 50 times by Hitler. And so it's all anecdotal. It was that checked. Is it true? Is there corroborating evidence? Was there a court case? And so on. So there's an endless amount of anecdote. A gay officer said that such and such, and a lesbian officer claimed this, and a black lesbian claimed that. So it's alleged that these people said so anonymously and without evidence. So the entire justification process, or the the underwriting, if you will, the underwriting evidence is all just anecdotal. Somebody said, and you're meant to have an intake of breath, and this is how the media or certain sections of the media reported it as breathlessly, and with one woman saying that she was raped 50 million times in 1 second by these white Nazi officers who were waving Hitler swastikas, and so when you say, oh, that's terrible, oh no, oh, Hitler with swastikas was raping this boy. No, wait, stop. This is what a radical activist said that somebody else said. That's all it is. There's not a smidgen, not a scintilla of any evidence to support this. It's a claim that a radical activist made. Now, this is exactly the same structural methodology of doing these reports. Somebody said, one woman said, and as long as they come from an oppressed minority, they have to be black, female, or lesbian, or gay. As long as they come from that, then what they said is not only fact; it's cast iron fact, and all reform and change and everything must be based on these so-called assertions. Now, other than the outcomes are not equal, you couldn't find any facts or relationship to facts, and there were phrases thrown around. And this police force is a boys' club. Again, that's a feminist gender studies term. It's not even it's a boys' club. And it's just, and your proof being, the outcome's not equal. Now, if you do a bit more digging, you'll find that when it comes to frontline policing, women and minorities don't really want to do that job. You don't want to go in a place where somebody might shoot you or beat you up or dong you on the head or something. So women aren't applying for that. The women want the cozy, air-conditioned office jobs, and they want all sorts of benefits and this, that, and next thing. And the minorities want, the Islamic applicants want to have a special Islamic prayer room. And if you don't provide them a prayer room, then you're Hitler if you don't do and this sort of thing. So you couldn't really find, all you can find is that certain minorities don't want those jobs. Now, there's a policy in this police, as I understand it at least, a policy in this police force that is police that are on the front line get older and it's more difficult for them to, chase bad guys down the lane, that sort of thing, that they're given office jobs. So that's the preference. But the argument, again, as I understand, is here that shouldn't happen, that instead women and minorities should be given those office jobs, as in new hires, simply to create this delusional Marxist paradise of equal outcomes. So I couldn't find anything in the report that I've seen, at least, and I haven't read it cover to cover, anything in the report. But there are, various activists, lesbian and homosexual activists and minority people getting up saying, oh, it's so terrible. It's a boys' club. Fascists and misogynists are everywhere. White supremacy and so on. But without, again, a scintilla of evidence to support it, they fall back every time on there's somebody said, or look, the outcomes aren't equal. If we look at the senior positions like, chief inspector or that sort of level, the senior level, there are more white men than there are anything else. That shows that Hitler is in charge. No, it doesn't. And so they've got the most radical group they could find. That group then grabbed the most radical activists to go along and do a supposed study, which in my view isn't worth a pinch of shit. It's just a bunch of ideological hysteria masquerading as an academic report, but it's nothing of the sort. It's a bunch of ideological hysteria and nothing else. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.